Thank you for coming right quick. We're going to do an opening prayer. As a person, I like to pray to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. So I'm going to ask you all to, with humble hearts and clear heads, please join me in prayer. Christ Jesus, I want to thank you for this day. I want to thank you for the event coming up, Black History. With Black History, Lord Jesus, is about everybody's history because we all were always together, from Ham, Shem, and Japheth, Noah's 3 boys. And we have come here together in Cleveland to join together and just share a little fellowship, share a little love, and get a little history lesson. I want to thank the mayor's office for always supporting us, city council, and all those who have attended, Lord. May we, again, fellowship together, learn a little something, because history is so very important, Lord. When we take this history and share it with somebody. I want to thank you, Christ Jesus. Amen. Sergeant Dennis, whenever you're ready, sir. Sergeant, yeah, come on up. Sergeant Kennedy. And right now, everybody, I'm going to have Sergeant Kennedy Jones come up here and do a little singing. He has a spiritual gift he wants to share with us. It's always important to share what the Lord has given you. Can't keep it by yourself.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It's an honor for me to be here this afternoon. Anytime I get a chance to participate in a worthwhile occasion, then I'm just elated to be able to lend whatever I can to the program. So, to Michael Shockley, thank you, and to those of you who invited me, those who are being honored today, thank you so much. I want to do very quickly a medley of songs, starting from Negro Spirituals and working through today, if that's all right. Amen. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. A long way from home, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home, a long way from home. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go down. Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go down. Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give Mr. Kennedy Jones another round of applause. Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Shockley, and I am the chair of the 2018 City of Cleveland Black History Month Committee, and I welcome you all on behalf of our committee. At this time, I want to introduce Director Grady Stevenson to give you a proper welcome from the City of Cleveland. Grady Stevenson.
Thank you, Shelley. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. And on behalf of Mayor Frank Jackson, the 56th Mayor of the City of Cleveland, I welcome you here in City Hall Rotunda to our Black History Celebration. This month is very important to us as a people and to us as a city. We are thankful to have a mayor that allows us to celebrate our heritage in many different facets. And so when we come together in this rotunda and we celebrate with one another our history and our past, we are also making history. And so we want to remind each and every one of you, when you wake up each and every day and set your feet on the floor, remember that you are here to be a blessing to someone else. And you don't know when that blessing is going to cause you to be numbered in the numbers of history with great people who have done great things. So please keep your mind and your ears and your heart open to what the Creator has set forth for you to do. And remember that we are constantly making history. And one day maybe our name will fly high in the City Hall Rotunda as we celebrate history, and those who come behind us celebrate history. So to our Black History Committee, thank you. To all those who came out today, I'm sure you'll be blessed in what you see and hear here today. So God bless you.
Thank you, Director. Now, I got a special guest coming up here very shortly. It's somebody who, when I first met him, I didn't want to like him. But somehow the Lord does things and puts people in your paths that you become like family. He's going to come up in a little bit, but before that, I'm going to read off some of Cleveland's first blacks in the community. First City Councilman, Thomas Wallace Fleming, 1910 to 1912, and served until 1929. Councilwoman, Jean Muriel Capers, served January 2nd, 1950 to January 3rd, 1960. Then it was called the 11th Ward. Mayor, American City, Carl Burton Stokes, 1967 to 1971, first mayor of a major city. Municipal Court Judge, Perry B. Jackson, 1942 to 1943, first African-American judge in the state of Ohio. Municipal Court Judge, Lillian Walker Burke, 1969 to 1987, first appointed female African-American judge in the state of Ohio. Municipal Court Judge, C. Ellen Connolly, 1980 to 2003, first female African-American judge elected in the state of Ohio without first being appointed. Congressman Louis Stokes, 1969 to 1999, first African-American congressman from Cleveland area. The first coach of a Cleveland Municipal School District, Russ Alexander, 1944. First police sergeant, David E. Beasley, rank of Cleveland Police Department. His day was not given, but he was a cop from 1938 to 1944. First millionaire, Alonzo Wright, 1940. Olympic gold, Jesse Owens, East Texarkana, 1936. 4 world record-setting field events in athletics. He was also one of the first to become a Big Ten champion the previous year. Board of Elections, Virgil Lee Brown, 1972 to 1980. Director, 1980 to 1991. Judge is also the assistant principal, Myrtle Bell, 1938. And in 1973 to 1989, let's not forget George Forbes, first African-American city council president. And then 1990 to 1999, Arthur Woods, first African-American city council clerk. Now, a lot of these records, I want to thank Marty Hauserman from City Archives. A lot of this, Marty once said one thing. He said, history itself was written by those who won the war. So a lot of these records might not be totally accurate, but it's what we could find in the Plain Dealer, in the Call and Post, and other articles. So it was a joyful journey. I'm not done seeking and trying to learn. Education is so very important. And also, I want to tell you something about the city of Cleveland and civil rights, what we've gone through. When Cleveland was first established as a city, it was one of the first cities a lot of blacks really prospered in. They were welcome in Cleveland in the 1800s. And that means a lot. A lot of times, the blacks, and let's think about this also. We have always been here. If you watch a lot of the movies, the A&M movies, you don't see many of us. But if you think back into the Bible, Ethiopians, and don't forget about the farmer and the carpenter. The farmer was Simon of Cyrene, and the carpenter, Jesus Christ. He helped him carry that cross, which is what we got to do now. As Clevelanders, as blacks, as whites, we're all here as one. And the thing about it also, Cleveland has always been a place where you can do things. I remember in 1991 and 90, there was the Black Mayors Conference, the first time it was held outside the South. During Mike White's tenure, I was on the host committee. That's something that Cleveland really has always opened its doors for different things, different venues, and different people. That's why we all are here. Again, history is just not about the blacks or the whites or the Asians. All of us have always been here. Christ tells you that. That's just the way I feel about things. And if it's something you can prove me wrong on, please come talk to me. I'll never fear being taught anything or learn anything, you know. So I think shortly I'm gonna have a friend come up here, Dion from downstairs. He got something to say to you guys. Also, what was really hard was trying to find something about our police, but I got somebody who's gonna talk about that. But I'm a kid who grew up in Garden Valley. And the hospital I was born in is called Mary B. Talbot. It was on 2215 East 40th Street. At the time, it was a hospital for black unwed mothers. And I was born in 1958. I know I don't look like it, but it was closed down in 1960. But the thing about this hospital, my mother told me it was a very, very excellent hospital, because a lot of times, no matter what we did, we were always steered away from the mainstream. You know, we were okay over here and over here, but the Lord had other things for us to do, and all these first pioneers, they opened doors for all of us. We may not have achieved what we achieved as soon as we did, but there's some folks who, these first black Clevelanders, they also were pioneers. And you know what pioneers did? They were trailblazers. And I'm not talking about the Portland trailblazers. These people had to give their hearts, their souls, and their bodies to do something. And could you imagine when you want to be the first one, your family will tell you, why are you doing that? They gonna talk about you? Yeah. They gonna laugh at you? Yeah. But somebody had to do it. Somebody had to reach back and hand that baton off to the next person. That's what we gotta do now. There's people coming after us. And I was the first black. I'm the first black building inspector to take care of the senior initiative by myself. I love it. If somebody coming after me, I'm gonna open the door, because don't forget, if a door is open for you, he opened it, and can't nobody close it. Nobody can. And go through that door proudly, with joy, and do something for somebody else, because we're not here by ourselves. You can't do it by yourself. This was fun, exciting. I got butterflies. I met some new friends, some old friends who came around, you know. But as a kid growing up in Garden Valley, I didn't know much about the problem with civil rights. I was a kid. I was in kindergarten when when the president was killed, President Kennedy. Miss Catlin came out of the classroom crying, so I was just crying too. The president got killed. I was like, okay, didn't know much about it. I was in the 5th grade when Dr. King was killed, and that bothered me a little bit, but I was still young. And then, lo and behold, this somebody by the name of Governor Faust came into my life, my stepfather. He joined the Cleveland Police Department in 1956, and he did quite a bit as a police officer. I didn't realize what he was doing, but I remember as a kid, he was dressed in all blue and broguing boots. He was part of the strike force, which was pre-SWAT. And thinking back then, in the early 60s, that's because of the riots, the Huff riots and the Glenville shootings. That's what he was doing. And they had the shotguns in the back trunk, in the trunk of the car. And then I saw him, he was talking about how he was catching an airplane. He was riding Air Force One with President Ford. These things blacks didn't always do. So you had to be something. You had to be proud of yourself, educated, you know. And so these are the things that we forget about. A lot of our parents did things, and parents always tried to shield us from the different things that was going on in the world. They didn't want us to see it, you know. I mean, down in Garden Valley, I had a good childhood. We went across the Swinger Bridge to the Dandy Potato Chip Factory over on Sidaway and came back with potato chips. We borrowed them. We didn't steal them, because I don't want to say I did anything wrong as a kid, you know. And my father did things with Danny Green. I mean, you know, Danny Green, who was the bomber. My father was a police officer then, so a lot of things our parents did, they were trailblazers also. They did things that they had to do. They did things they wanted to do because they wanted to make a way for their family and for their friends. So, again, I appreciate you all coming here. We're getting ready to roll. I'm waiting for Dion to come from downstairs. What time is it now? Okay. All right, got a few more minutes. So I'm going to also talk about something that's near and dear to me. I found something about our Cleveland Fire Department. Now, historically, and I'm not going to speak for the fireman who will come up here, but supposedly we first had a fireman in 1844, which means a lot. Because, you know, in 1844, they didn't have much for us to do. And I'm going to read a little something to you from the Cleveland Gazette. Apparently, there are letters to the paper involving the appointment of colored firemen. The first letter must have appeared in the letter on November 3rd, 1884, by Jonas Christopher. The Cleveland Gazette is referred to in the stand on a color question, and the department of that city made a good point. It says that the true question is not whether they should have colored men in the fire department or not. They have this already, but whether these colored men shall form one company. Again, when we did things, they tried to steer us, keep us all together, I guess to keep a watch on us. Upon such a question, its position is right. We ought not to ask for a color line. We get it too much without asking. If colored men can become members of the Cleveland Fire Department and serve without reference to their color, by all means, let them do it. Editor Smith is right. Success to him. There's little doubt that there were black firefighters in Cleveland in 1884. And there was also, I found something about this man that was very interesting, the first black fire chief in the United States. This was 1831. His name was Patrick H. Raymond. He was appointed to the fire department in the early 1850s. He was assigned to a hydrant company number 4. And Chief Raymond is believed to be the first black fire chief in the United States. Also was a member of the National Association of Fire Engineers, predecessor to the International Association of Firefighters, and in the International Association of Fire Chiefs. These things are very historic and very important. And then also, I want to talk about someone who was like a cult hero to me, reading all this stuff. His name was, if I can find my notes, right here. Listen to this name, Smokestack Hardy. What a name. This gentleman was from the Baltimore area, and this was like in the 1800s also, and he was allowed to cross the white lines to take pictures. And again, this meant something. I mean, they didn't just have him stand back here. He was allowed to be in the front, and he would go from city to city and take pictures. So that was very historic also for Smokestack Hardy. So again, we got a lot of history here. It's awesome, and I thank you all for coming to see it. Hold on one second. I'm gonna make sure that Dion is coming up because he want to do something for you. You know Dion down in the cafeteria.
How can I say thanks for all the things you have done for me? Things so undeserved, yet you gave to prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels could not express my gratitude. All that I am or ever hope to be, I owe it all to thee. To God be the glory, to God be the glory, to God be the glory for the things he has done. With his blood he has saved me. With his power he has raised me. To God be the glory for the things that he has done. Just let me live my life and let it be pleasing, Lord, to thee. And should I gain any praise, Let it go to Calvary. For with his blood he has saved me. With his power he has raised me. To God be the glory for the things, for the wonderful things, for the things that he has done. Hallelujah. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for stopping out to the Cleveland First celebration today. I'm about to give y'all a speech I made just for this day today. I call it First Up, Next Up by Dion Barksdale. All right, collect y'all thoughts and sit back in the chairs while this young man finessed this Cleveland First with a touch of literature flares. Black Cleveland, our Cleveland, my Cleveland. We got a backstory like none other than few are willing to accept. Gather round, gather round. Luckily, I'm not inept, so open your ears to this unkept. First up, in 1809, is George Peake, first black settler and family to appear in Cleveland. Well, how did they get here? Picture this. My man's crossed the Cuyahoga River and ended up on St. Clair. See, at the time, tensions were deep in the South, so blacks migrated where it was integrated, which happens to be up north. Searching for support? Well, we found it on Cleveland East Side neighborhoods like Glenville, Fairfax, and Huck. Astonishing things started to happen next. We didn't sit around through trying times. We commenced to flex. John Brown was a barber who was the first to invest in real estate and became the wealthiest black man. Or how about Madison Tiller? He owned an excavating business and was fortunate enough to employ over 100 men. And how about a World War II vet by the name of Robert P. Madison, who opened doors by graduating from Case Western Reserve University, becoming the first, not just in our city, but in Ohio to own an excavating and architectural business. I'm just getting warmed up, y'all. I'm not even close to finish. Especially if Gary Morgan in 1916 helped save workers trapped underneath a Lake Erie water intake tunnel. He was the greatest inventor of all time who just happens to be multifunctional. I call him an angel by virtue, still saving lives forever with the traffic light and, of course, with the chemical components used right now in perms and relaxers. Y'all ladies with me? Can I get a wow? All right, want to hear my checklist that consists of Cleveland First who pushed through persecutions to persist? Bear with me for a moment, y'all. This isn't a short list. Jane Edna Hunter. She was famous for being a social worker. She established the Phyllis Wheatley Home, enriching the lives of black women and children. Jesse Owens defied odds in Berlin, winning 4 gold Olympic medals. Let me tell you about Dorothy Dandridge, first black actress nominated for an Oscar, starring as the sultry Carmen Jones. Halle Berry later became the first to receive that elusive award. All right, here I go. Personally, my favorite is John Patterson Green, the father of Labor Day, who looked past the unseen and became our first state legislator. Years down the line, he became our first senator. The forgotten warrior, Harry Clay Smith, was the reason for the Ohio civil rights laws. Pause. He was also founder of the first black publication dubbed the Old Reliable, AKA the Cleveland Gazette. Having an incredible mindset, Thomas Fleming was first elected to city council. Is everybody keeping up and counting? Okay, well good, I have an announcement. Having a Cleveland First celebration without Carl and Louis Stokes would just need to be canceled. Carl, our first mayor and becoming the first mayor of Americas in any major city. Lewis, he later on became our first congressman. Nothing here left to debate. The truth of the matter of the fact is, next up would be names like George Forbes, Marcia Fudge, Nina Turner, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, Fannie Lewis, Michael White, to Frank Jackson, to the countless others that stood their place. Y'all know Black Cleveland been winning this race. Furthermore, there's no way we could keep pace with the Playhouse settlement. Opened its doors in 1915. It was evident that they was here for the betterment. A common ground who saw through arts, all men can be created equally. A place, a joyful gathering, where you were sure to run into Langston Hughes, who made this his stomping grounds. Honing their talents in the oldest country's Black theater, hometown before they was Hollywood bound, LaWanda Page, Bill Cobbs, Arsenio Hall, Rudy D, Ron O'Neal, and Terrence Howard all attended this elusive Playhouse Clubhouse. Show of hands if you knew I was talking about the Karamu House. All right. So I believe I covered all the bases of Black Cleveland First, who are famous, to the point this composition enlighten your mind, possibly being a little persuasive. So my friends, I leave you all with this. Everybody's quick to say we face an inequality. Where's the dialogue on equality? I'm gonna repeat that for y'all again, just in case y'all didn't hear it. I said, everybody's quick to say we facing inequality. I wanna know where's the dialogue on equality. I'm just up here speaking facts and reality. Someone once said, we are the music makers and we are the dreams of the dreams. So by all means, we are Black from Cleveland. We gotta reach further than the extremes. Listen, our history is alive and rich. So we stand before you today to let the world know that we're next up. We're not gonna be dictated by these sick current events. Our tomorrow is faced with the most difficult times in human history. So we cannot let that hinder us from our goals. Stand up if you with me. Stand up for equality, which means superior economic and social statuses for everyone. Because one by one, we stand for next up. No fake news, no makeup, just us. One last thing to discuss before I go, and I'm gonna be all the way true with y'all. Next up, Dion Barstow for President of the United States in the year 2032. Mark y'all calendars, all right? I just want to take this time to thank the City of Cleveland for this platform, Michael Shockley for giving me this opportunity to give myself out to y'all. Thank everybody for coming today, all right? Thank y'all.
Now, as we're rolling, I want to thank Dion. When I saw him downstairs when I was first talking about doing this, he just said, I got something I want to do. And I just told him, come on. I didn't know what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, or what he's going to do, but I'm going to thank you, Dion. Now I want to bring up somebody, a fireman, Mr. Rudolph Buffington. Would you please step forward, sir?
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
My name is Rudolph Buffington. I'm the president of the Vanguards of Cleveland. We're a minority organization for African American and Hispanic firefighters on the Cleveland Fire Department, men and women. Oh, okay. The Vanguards of Cleveland is an organization of professional minority firefighters in Cleveland. The Vanguards of Cleveland were organized in June 1968, so this year marks our 50th anniversary. The first meeting was held at the Glenville YMCA at 111th and St. Clair Avenue. The purpose for forming such an organization was the cultivation and maintenance of professional competency among firefighters and the establishment of unity and brotherhood. It was also believed that the enlightenment of minority firefighters could occur by exchanging information, ideas, and experiences in order to develop solutions to the problems affecting them. The mounting community pressures of the time, along with the growing internal tensions within the fire service, served as a catalyst to forge the foundation of the organization. The following year, in 1969, members of our organization traveled to New York to meet with other African-American firefighters from around the country. The result of this historic meeting was a convention site selected in Hartford, Connecticut in 1970. In 1970, and at that meeting, they formed the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. The Vanguards of Cleveland has dedicated themselves to the recruitment and development of minority men and women within the fire service and act as a liaison to the community. The Vanguards are continuing to develop programs to educate the citizens of Cleveland in the area of fire safety and fire prevention practices. A composite of some of our major accomplishments to date include a hiring consent decree, Lamont C. Hedden versus the City of Cleveland, in which the Vanguards of Cleveland are named to the court as monitors, which has assisted in increasing the ranks of minorities within the Cleveland Fire Department. The development of a recruitment and training program that has not only aided minority men and women in establishing careers within the Cleveland Fire Department, but in other departments in the area as well. The Vanguards of Cleveland initiated an effort in 1979 to develop promotional opportunities for minorities in the fire service, which in 1986 culminated with the successful defense of a promotional consent decree in the United States Supreme Court. The Vanguards have also participated in a range of activities, including raising money for the Sickle Cell Anemia Association, smoke detector and fire prevention education seminars, Junior Fire Cadet Program, the Martin Luther King Fire Training Academy, and the Vanguard Smoke Trade. A brief history of our members that have served on the Cleveland Fire Department. The first black firefighter on the Cleveland Fire Department was James Gay Sr. He was appointed in 1943. And I know there's some history with black firefighters going back with the Cleveland Gazette to 1884, but even before that, we served as firefighters as slaves when we came to this country, because the first firefighters were slaves. They weren't paid anything, they just did what they had to do. And then after that, other groups of people decided to establish it as a career or a vocation. But I always remember that slaves were the first firefighters. He was a founding, James Gay Sr. was a founding member of the Cleveland, or the Vanguards of Cleveland. The second black firefighter on the Cleveland Fire Department, his name was Doug Dennis. He was appointed in 1946. So as you can see, even with the establishment of a minority on the Cleveland Fire Department, it took a while for them to hire us regularly. So they waited another 3 years before they hired the second black firefighter. He went on to he was a founding member of the Vanguards of Cleveland, and he was also the first president of the organization. Brenda Perrin was the first female on the Cleveland Fire Department, and she was appointed in 1985. And unfortunately, since the group, when she came on, we haven't had a woman hired since 1989. That has to change. That definitely has to change. Also, we had the first black chief of the fire department for the city of Cleveland was Paul Stubbs. He was also a longtime member of the Vanguards of Cleveland and Cleveland Fire Department. He was appointed in 2006. We also had a past president of the Vanguards of Cleveland and the seventh president of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. He was also in our organization. His name is Johnny Brewington. And he was a longtime member, and a lot of people in this room knows who he is. He's still serving us. He's been serving since the day he came on the fire department. We're looking forward to the next 50 years with a renewed spirit of dedication, similar to that of our pioneers, and believe with God's help, we will continue our duty and commitment to the citizens and the communities that we serve. We're celebrating 50 years in May. We're hosting a conference, the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, North Central Regional Conference at the Westin Cleveland downtown, May 2nd through the 6th. May God bless all of you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Really appreciate that. And as he said, these firefighters, they are just like our soldiers. They serve. They are the first ones to go into a fire, and you know everybody else is running out. They're running in. Let's not forget 9/11. They are the ones who every day their lives are online. We really thank them. We owe them a lot. Now I want to talk about real quick one of the first black custodians engineers. Mr. Donald McElroy couldn't make it, but his daughter is here. If she wants to step up for a minute, or she can wait, I got an award for him. Dawn Gilliard, if you want to step up for a minute. And, you know, a custodian's job is not just to go around the school and sweep. They have to have an engineer's mind because they got to work with boilers and heating systems and cooling systems and keep that building safe for the people who are inside of it. There's pipes and there's chemicals, so we want to thank them. They really keep our kids safe when they go to school. When we go to school, when we go to work. Let's think about Cleveland City Hall.
I was speaking to Michael about, a couple of weeks ago about black people that have done things for the first time in Cleveland. My father was one of the first people to be the union representative, the president of Local 777, his union. He was also the first person that started teaching women how to do the job of being a custodian. The men were fighting him. They told him, we don't want no women. But he saw that women, too, would like to have the opportunity to have a job that earned them a decent income. And I just want to thank Michael for acknowledging my father. Thank you.
Now, again, as we talked about these Cleveland's first and these pioneers and these trailblazers, let's not forget, let's say 20, 25 years ago, if they hadn't opened the doors, we wouldn't have people like our next representative, my new interim director of Building and Housing, Ayanna Donald.
Good afternoon, everyone. When Inspector Shockley, who I just call him Shockley, one of my favorite people, in City Hall, approached me with this, you know, it was a little, made me think and be very retrospective about some things, because never did I really think like, oh, I'm the first African-American female to be interim director of the Department of Building and Housing. But when you think of first, every first that we've talked about here today, you think about someone paving the way and making it easier for those to follow. And it's really interesting to think that we're 150 years outside of the Emancipation Proclamation being signed, that we're still having to say that there's a first of anything. That it's very interesting that Dion said that he wanted to be president, and we just had our first African-American president, my favorite, President Obama, but have paved the way for people like him to want to be that. And to think that I was the first person in my family to go to college and obtain a higher degree, to make it easier for my children and the remainder of people in my family coming behind to make it easier. And the first person in my college to establish the African American Panhandle Association to make it easier for the undergraduates coming after me. But never do I think when, or have I thought, or even now when I'm in that situation, that that's what I'm doing. But I just hope that from being now this Cleveland first, that I do pave a way for those coming after me at some point in time when I leave the Department of Building and Housing, that it will make it easier for women of color to be established in higher management positions in my department, and one day also to be director. But I thank you, Shaklee, for this recognition today.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you, Director. Now, as we're getting ready to roll with this program again, I want to thank everybody for coming. I got somebody else coming up here. Again, as we talk about pioneers, trailblazers, when they allow blacks to do certain things, they really left our sisters as second-class citizens, but they had to really go through them doors, fight, and that's what I'm going to bring up here next. Retired Lieutenant Michelle Kennedy, please step up here, please.
Hello, everybody. Okay, as he stated, I'm a retired lieutenant from the Cleveland Division of Police. I served for, is that more better? Okay. I served on the division for 33 and a half years, and it was fun. Mr. Shaklee, Inspector Shaklee, wanted me to talk about me, but I'm sorry, I'm nervous. All right, 33 years, 12 years in patrol. I also served as a DARE officer in community policing. That was 12 years, 18.5 years as a sergeant. And there I was in the record file section, the Office of Professional Standards, and the majority of that time I was the supervisor of the K-9 unit. I think I was the first female, was the first black. So there's my first. Okay, there's your statistics. And then my last 3 years, I served as administrative lieutenant in the 3rd District. So I went full circle, started in the 3rd, ended in the 3rd. So as I stated, he wanted me to talk about me and my career. That took about 52.3 seconds, I know, because I timed it. So I decided to talk about how I became a police officer. And originally I was born, and I grew up in Glenville, and I come from a police family. My cousins, Shelby and Clark Kellogg, were on the division, and my adopted uncle, Alvin Character, was also on the division. Back then it was the department. So I was surrounded by police officers. It wasn't unusual. I thought there were a lot of black police officers because I didn't realize that all of them were over at our house at some point in time. But anyway, so when I was in kindergarten, I was supposed to walk home with Barbara, and we had a miscommunication. I waited around, she looked for me, I looked for her, we went back and forth. I finally decided to walk home, up 105th, a couple of blocks to Massey Avenue from Columbia Elementary School. Ran into my oldest brother, he said, "Don't walk home alone." I helped him deliver the Cleveland Press. Got home, there were police cars. I didn't think anything of it. Got in the house, my mom was crying, all tore up, thinking I'm missing. She says, "You were lost." I told her I wasn't lost, I knew exactly where I was, okay? The only reason I didn't get beat right then was because she was so happy to see me. But after that ended, she was going to spank my behind, right? My hero came forward, Officer Brown. I don't remember his first name. He got in between me and my mom and let me tell her my end of the story, and gently spoke with her and calmed her down and let her know, that she really didn't want to spank me. That was the opposite end of the pendulum of happiness. So he not only saved my behind, I think he saved my life. So I already had a love for police officers, but after that, I was really into it. A year after that, I was attending St. Thomas Aquinas as a first grader, right at the beginning of the school year. 3 girls, 3rd graders, didn't know them, came up on me, beat the cowboy dookie out of me. Can I say that? Okay, yeah. Beat the cowboy dookie out of me, and to this day, I have no idea why. After that, my brother took me home. He started teaching me how to fight so I could protect myself. And I made a vow right then and there, nobody was gonna get beat like I did. I mean, those girls whooped me like I don't know what. And I made a vow that I wasn't going to take a beating and I wasn't going to let anybody else have a beating. And I think that's what started my career as a defender. Because I would go home and I've gotten to fights defending other kids that I didn't know against other kids I didn't know. But in 1981, I made it official with Cleveland. I worked some other little side jobs as security, but Cleveland Police, June 1, 81, is when I raised my hand and took, well, didn't take the oath to August, was in the academy, June 1, 81. And that started off my 33 and a half years on the division. The lighting up here is terrible. Wanted to talk about firsts. Well, as the inspector stated, it was kind of difficult trying to find out information about firsts on the division. A lot of it's oral history. But some of the things that I did find out was that Bosie Mack, and if you know different, please let me know later. But from what I have, Bosie Mack was our first deputy chief. He retired in 1988. Susan Boyd was our first female lieutenant. She came from the old Women's Bureau and transferred into the regular police division. She was our first lieutenant. Ralph Burke, our captain. Clarence Smart was noted as a master detective in the juvenile unit. He was known as being a walking encyclopedia. Sorry. Patrick Oliver, chief. Mary Bounds, first female chief. Lee Malloy was a certified diver for the Ports and Harbor unit. Sam Reese, the mounted unit. Charles Scott, the aviation unit. And as Inspector noted earlier, I just found that out myself today from him about David Beasley. He was in the SIU, the Scientific Investigation Unit, in 1930 under Elliot Ness. So those are some notable things. Inspector Shockley, who I did not know before this, but we're stuck with each other now, opened my eyes to the fact that we don't know a lot about what went on. Now, I know his dad, or I knew his dad, briefly because he retired in 81, but I think his legend lived on long after that, But that's where some of the information may be a little bit sketchy, but this is what I found. Also, according to Case Western Reserve University's Encyclopedia of Cleveland History, in 1977, Cleveland was found guilty of discrimination against minorities in hiring, promoting, and recruiting. The city took steps to rectify that problem. By 1992, the numbers rose, and the department rose up to 26.3% of African American officers, male and female included. Today, it's down to 22%, which isn't a great amount considering with the attrition and the lower numbers, but we're down to 22%. But in that current change, it might be slight, but one of the things that we can look at is that we have more supervisors. We have more officers in command, Chief Williams, Deputy Chief Dion McCauley and Wayne Drummond. We have commanders, Deidre Jones, and also Commander Sam Morris and others. And the list could go on and on about the firsts. My concerns are not just for the firsts, but as some have mentioned, that we continue and we continue to build. I just saw the Black Panther. I'm not going to tell you what happens. It's good, okay? But one of the things is that we cannot live within our own little bubble, in the safety of our own little circle. We need to branch out. We need to take those risks. Sometimes risking our sense of security, often our false sense of security. And we need to branch out and not just pass that torch on, but to have that person with us, to develop. That's one of the things I feel like I missed out. I didn't have mentors to help me grow and become, I would think, a better leader. I did the best I could, and I think I did a pretty darn good job. But I also feel like mentorship is important. So if you're in a position to mentor, do it. Don't forget you mentor your children. You mentor those kids that walk past your house and drop the garbage in your yard, and also be a role model to them. I'm probably preaching to the choir right now, right? So finally, I just wanted to say, that our people, when I say our, I mean all of us, like to acknowledge our first Black president, our first police chief, our first teachers, first firemen, all these wonderful people up here. But we don't want to end with the firsts. We want to keep it going on. So, I challenge you to, for you to be the first. Go to the community meetings, go to the schools. And when you get there and you discover you're not the first, don't go, dang nabbit, I thought I was the first, and decide not to go. Just be glad you're not the first. And just keep on keeping on. Because anytime you do something for the first time, you're the first. Believe in yourself, believe in our communities. Don't let all that's going on discourage you from going on. Some days you just got to do like they say, put one foot in front of the other. And being the first is great, but we have to continue on. We want to get to the point where, yes, we honor our ancestors by carrying the torch, spreading the torch, passing on the torch, but we also want our ancestors to look and honor us for continuing on and keeping the dream alive. Thank you.
This, once again, is to Mr. Donald McElroy, one of our first Black engineers, Black custodians, and they are the ones who keep us safe in these buildings, and that's so very important. We sometimes forget when we go through a door that we just think of the comfort, the creature comforts, the heat, the ventilation. There's a lot of times there are pipes that go through different areas that I sometimes got to inspect. We'll make sure that they're running right. And thank you, Mr. McElroy. Now, President Buffington, he had to leave. He's the president of Vanguards, one of our outstanding firefighters in the city, Lieutenant Rudolph Buffington, but we'll later give him his plaque. But again, outstanding job, these two ladies who I'm partial to. Director, could you please step up here? Director Ayanna Donald of Building and Housing. And again, I'm kind of partial to the police. I lived with one for quite a while, my late stepdad. And again, as Lieutenant Michelle said to me, she didn't want to be up here and she didn't want me to call him Lieutenant, but I'm going to call her Lieutenant anyway because she earned that, For a woman to go through what she went through to become a police officer in the city of Cleveland, any city, is an outstanding award, and I really want to just, again, give her a hand. Lieutenant. Lieutenant Michelle Kennedy.
So I hope you all learned something today. We had a good program talking about those who have paved the way.